Alan, my buddy Alan Steinfeld. Hey,
Hey, we're back. Where are we back to? But
we're um, we a couple of days ago we were chatting and we talked about all kinds of things. But one of the things that kept coming up for me afterwards would, we went in depth about we talked a bit about extraterrestrials and what I came out of the conversation with was that um, the um, I think what you're saying is they're already here,
hmm
and that we're just not vibrating at the right frequency for us to be able to see them, perceive them.
well, the truth is we are them. We are not of the earth. Our consciousness is different than all the other creatures here. It's related, but we don't know who we are. We don't know the capabilities of our inner intelligence because we've been blocked from it. We've been brainwashed. So if we really understood the bigger picture, like people like Paul Lowe have been trying to tell us, and other great teachers, that we are so vast, we are so much bigger in our awareness than we've been conditioned to think that we are. So that's the problem. If we knew who we were, it's not even a question of extraterrestrials or it's like it's someone living in another country. Do we just believe that there aren't other people except what we're seeing in front of us? I mean, we're talking about 100 years ago, or do we believe that the world is bigger, that there are people living in different cultures on other parts of the world that are similar to us as sentient beings, but have their own way? I mean, I looked up in when I was growing up. I would look up in the sky and see those lights in the sky, and they were like the same lights that I would see driving home at night with my family in the back of the car, looking at houses in the distance. You see a little porch light on. As you get close to the porch light, well, in the distance, it's just a light. So as you get closer, it's like, oh yeah, that's the porch light. Someone's home. So it's like that. Those lights that we're seeing when you walk out, and I bet you do it in Calgary more than you do in New York. Although I just spent time in Sedona, and you walk out and you meet forever. You look up at the stars, and you are actually one with that field out there. I don't. Something's out there, but I don't see a separation between us here and what's out there. The universe is not out there. The universe is here too. So, um, it's just a natural continuum, and we've been artificially cut off from our natural continuity, but we have this incredible facility of consciousness that,
Yes.
that we don't even know how to work, you know and then people abuse it, but I mean by getting high and drunk and pushing their bodies in ways that they don't need to. Of course, you can push yourself through the brainwashing, but we have this incredible facility that we're just being taught something so juvenile. When you're taught to read in first grade, you're dumbed down. That's where the dumbing down starts. And so everything you're taught puts your consciousness into a framework. We should be taught to read advanced science in first grade. In first grade, when you're very starting to read, we need to be taught advanced thinking from that where and that would develop a facility of awareness. Like, I was really upset I didn't get a chance to take Latin in high school because they used to offer it, and everybody said, oh, who wants to take that? But for me, that would have been a foundational perspective
Of course. Yep.
on a cultural that we've emerged out of. The Judeo-Christian Greco-Roman culture is the foundation of what we find ourselves in today. So I always knew I wanted to be some kind of cultural historian, and I was didn't know what I knew. I wanted something in school, and I wasn't getting it. And that was my craving to know and to be aware. And if you ever you've been to my apartment, but it's even more full of books now because somehow all these books, like right here, it's like I said before, it's not wisdom, but it's knowledge. And I find for me the Aquarian nature some satisfaction in having access to knowledge.
Yes. So,
But
so much of what's written that you would call knowledge, though, is in the dualistic measure of things. The idea of separation of right
yeah.
and wrong and good and bad, and
Mhm.
so it doesn't really lift us up into the higher realms.
Well, personally, I don't see it that way. I mean, you could see it that way, but I choose not to see it that way. I
Okay.
see the knowledge of these books stimulating my own creative mind to go further. So even if it's dualistic, I see, okay, where's the bridge in the dualism? I see all this previous knowledge is up to us, each one of us, to evolve it. That's why we've been given this library of knowledge, so we can take this and start to. Mm, we're not reading. This is not me. This is me. We're not reading to just learn what people have told me. We're reading or listening to lectures or even this conversation to see what this stimulates in us that activates new thought, new awareness. Why people listen to music. They're not just listening to the sound, they're listening because the music puts them into a state where they can then reflect on their thoughts. Like classical music does that for me.
Yes.
It's there's no words, so I'm like it drops me into more of my own mind. And this is the same thing I'm saying about the ETs. There's more of our own mind that we're only like that far in. There's this huge, as and I've said this and it just came to as far as we can look outward to the
Yes.
stars, that's as far as we can look inward to the depth of something unfathomable about the self. And in my last conversation with Paul, I keep referencing him because that's where we know each other. But he's at that depth. He's found another level, and maybe he's always been there. Maybe I'm just seeing that, but maybe Muji is there too. When you can drop into that, just imagine the world we can all inhabit. And I think you're doing that, and that's what actually makes you. I was just thinking about you as an interviewer. What really makes you a good interviewer is that you give the space for people to drop in. You are calling people to where you're sitting, David. You are, and so you're bringing them to settle into themselves to respond from the place that you are activating. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yes.
So you're holding that space like these teachers. I mean, you're doing in your own way for people to respond to you in your depth, in your place that you've somehow found after being all those bumpy years. You found this place that has settled in, and you're the full spectrum. You're not just you never were just the bumpiness, but you've now found the place below. It's like the surface of the water is where all the waves are, but you drop down, there are no waves if you go down below the surface, right? It's just that depth. So it's like that. This is really what, if we talk about ETs, this is really what we're being called to explore. It doesn't matter who's out there in the sense like, oh wow, you know, but it's like, where do we find the way to meet the other in ourselves? Just like you're finding the way to meet people in your interviews, you've developed a way where people can meet you at the place you're at. And then this, if you can take that analogy and bring it to whatever is out there, they are assisting us to meet them in the place that they're at. I mean, one of the most, and I'll let you jump in a second, but I'm sorry. But one of the great sayings that that Jacques Vallée, who's one of the old time UFO investigators, he was the guy in, if you ever saw Close Encounters, the French guy, they portrayed him. Francois Truffaut portrayed the French researcher who lives in the U.S., which is really Jacques Vallée. And Jacques Vallée has said, if it turns out that ETs and UFOs are just visitors from another planet, I'll be very disappointed. It's because what seems to be happening with the phenomena are a lot of strangeness around it. They call it high strangeness. There's a synchronicities, there's intuition, there's telepathy, there's strange aberrations. There's a lot more going on than just like, oh, a visitor from out of town. And that's because, is my theory, they're functioning on this other level. They are like I said before, if you're talking to a dog, you don't bark at them. You talk to them. And this is what I think. Does that make sense? Any of that make sense? Which part
Uh,
makes sense? Which
it's interesting that while you're speaking,
uh-huh.
I'm sensing the edge of this nothingness, this openness, this oneness that but I'm not sensing it out here. I'm sensing it in here,
Right.
and
Right.
there's been a number of times in the last even couple of weeks when I've dropped into
Mm-hmm.
this thing that's way beyond anything here, and it has
Mm-hmm.
nothing in a way to do with here or the old conditioning.
Right.
It's
Right.
it just opens up. It's
Right. Exactly. I think you're getting it. You're getting a piece of yourself there too. You're getting
so
y-
for many years I have asked, call it prayer if you will, I've
mhm.
asked to for the 50,000 foot view. you know
Okay.
I've asked, show me the whole mosaic. In
Okay.
um I mean, I've literally asked, I've said, please show me the whole
Mhm.
mosaic. And I can't tell you, there isn't any who that I'm asking.
Mhm.
There's just that, the
Mhm.
isness, the the intention to be able to see, or to be shown, or to experience. And it's been a prayer, not for any particular reason, not to get anything or to be anything. Just I can't even tell you why that prayer was given, why I have it, but it's there.
That prayer's given because that, I mean, from if my opinion is because that's who you are. That's who all of us are. That is the seeking that's always implanted in us. And so that is the essential part of the incarnational experience. We incarnate in order to answer that prayer in form, in form.
Mhm.
It's a special state of consciousness, the incarnational realm, the human, and the prayer you ask for is the it's why you incarnated. It's why came for this visit here.
So
And
with the thing with the Muji,
yeah,
mostly he's talking with people who mm, are kind of just discovering that they're not their thoughts. They're just discovering that that they're not their body. They're
Uh-huh.
just kind of discovering that, not always, but often they're, and he walks them through the process of letting go of the story, letting go of the concepts, letting go of tomorrow. And,
Uh-huh.
and he has this real cool ability to bring them into whatever that is now.
Mm-hmm.
And often the breakthroughs happen, and they they're raptured into laughter or tears, or they, and now I don't know what happens with those folks, whether that holds or not, and that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But in his when often when that happens for folks, I'm watching, and I actually feel it. I cry, I have
Yeah.
tears come, and at their at their it's there so obviously. And
Yeah.
but that wasn't what I was going to say. The other thing is that often in his conversation he talks of way beyond that, in a way. And he'll say, well, that's really not appropriate to speak about here, but there's, it's almost like in that field of nothingness
Mm-hmm.
that there is, the possibility to travel, the possibility to explore in that
Mm-hmm.
field of nothingness, because we're there with this consciousness in that consciousness, in a way. And or some mm, ability to discern, at least in that consciousness, or to be aware of, or do you know what I mean? It,
Well, I'm not. I know what you mean, but what do you what about it though?
well, I'm just saying that, um, that I get what you're saying. I hear what you're saying from my own personal experience, but also from the teachings of who I've been spending time with recently. That you know, um, they're and the possibility of meeting entities
Mm-hmm.
in altered states, or it's not even a state. It's a,
Well, it is in a way, yeah, but it isn't. But I mean, what Muji's doing from what you've described and a little that I've seen of him, that is that is like the level playing field. That is where you start to build the relationship to existence, your deeper self. I mean, you have to know you're not your personality, your thoughts, your history, your body, your identity. When you know that, and who's knowing that, of course, we ask, doesn't matter. Whatever it
no,
is that we are, is knowing that that part. Um, uh, when you have that sense of being, that is the place to start. That's not the end of the journey.
no.
That's the beginning of the journey.
Yes, of course it is. Yes, yes, yeah.
And what's beyond that is this relationship, in my feeling, to the cosmos, which takes us through all sorts of strange and complex and varied thought form realities,
Yes,
which in one level it's just another drama, on another level it's fascinating, and on another level it expands creation. It expands. My teacher before Paul Lowe was Ramtha from the channel, Jay-Z Knight, and Ramtha's big point of inspiration, or he says, we're here to make known the unknown. We're here to make known the. We didn't come here to complete our karma or to, do the, some great thing we planned out in another lifetime. I mean, yeah, you can do all that. Um, but I take that to mean we've really come here to create. Creators, artists, storytellers, musicians, what they do is bring more unknown. They take something that hasn't been and they bring it into this reality for other people to enjoy. Like, let's say the Beatles never existed, they never wrote those songs or and did all the. Would anyone miss them? No, no one would miss them because no one would know they even or ever could have existed. But because four English guys from Liverpool, England, started to, download or something, activate their greater mind, what they gave to the world was a more expression of feeling, more, more possibility for being and feeling and emotion and understand. This is what it's up to each of us to do. I mean, they're pretty extreme in their gift of creativity, but we're each here to give more unknown to the level. This is just my theory. I mean, I don't know if it's not right or wrong, but that's why we've incarnated. You're being very, this is your, maybe one of your forms of creativity. Maybe another form was running a business, maybe bringing stuff from Bali. This is your creative mind, chose those forms and many other ways. I don't even know your story, to make known the unknown, to give back into the world, because that is the most exciting thing we can do, I feel, as incarnational beings. Does that make sense?
Yes. So, but from that perspective,
Mhm.
um, in
That
making known the unknown,
that
you know,
only comes from that depth of being that you are talking about. That's where that comes from. It doesn't come from the personality. It doesn't come from the mind. It doesn't come from your thoughts. It
yes.
it comes from some other. It comes from the unknown in a way. So does does that do it? They just inspired me to say that. I don't even know why, but it's related to somehow, you know, Muji talking about those other levels. That's his creative flow.
Yes. And, for me, the what I feel is a bit of a thirst, if you will. It's like
Mhm.
looking for a lost brother. It's like looking. I'm quite. I don't even want to use the word interested. I'm almost driven to, to explore these realms, to
Which
be
realms are you do you want to explore?
the inner ones, everything that, the stuff that I can't even describe. I feel a bit like um what's his name, who went discovered America. He knew there was something there, but he didn't know what. And he didn't,
Right.
they were telling
Right.
him, no, you're going to sail off the end of the world. And he said, no, I don't think so. I think that there's something out there. So I feel a bit like that, although there's been lots of people venture in and and
Well,
uh,
it's
and
hard to venture in. I mean, people sit 20 years in a cave to have incredible inner experiences. I I do it by watching my dreams in sleep. And
your lucid dream.
yeah, I was taught this. I mean, I was doing that before, but when I was in Australia, I was visiting Paul, but also I stayed with some Aborigines for a few weeks, and they said their religion is dream time. That is
Hmm.
actually, and they told me when you're falling asleep, this is their practice, or this is one of the guy's practices, Paul McLeod. He said, when you're falling asleep, watch your mind, and when you start to generate images that are not just your monkey mind recycling old things. And when you start to see things change, Castaneda says this too, that's when you're in the dream time. That's when you can start to um, follow this conscious thread inward to a place that's beyond the personality. This is where art comes from, creativity, really good art and creativity, really inspired visions. Van Gogh, he's probably a little crazy, but he let that craziness be expressed in original ways. This is where all originality comes from. This is where um, um, there's something called there was a collection of poetry called Immortal Poetry, and by Robert Frost put together this collection. And he said immortal poems are not the ones that have been around for a long time, but they're the ones that you read. Oh yeah, he says immortal poetry are not the poems that have never been um, forgotten because they've been around, but they're the poems when you read them that you know you'll never forget. That's an immortal poem. That's a poem that comes right directly from that place,
From source,
from
from
source. Yes, through you, through
yes,
me, through that's that's the gift of the unknown that
yes.
we get out of the way, the personality gets out of the way. And when have you had that recently? Do you have a moment where that's come through you?
Oh, it happens all the time. But
In
I
which
don't
way?
see it as I call it almost intuition. I call it
Yeah.
it just it's the flow.
Yeah.
It especially happens when I'm working with the people in the 12-step recovery world, and I don't need to know, if somebody's coming. Like I had a fellow come at lunchtime, and I didn't need to plan out what I was going to say. We spent maybe an hour 20 minutes together, and it just flowed. We did some reading, but I didn't have anything planned, and but at the end it was beautiful, and well, I
Mm,
live that way.
mm.
Of,
Actually, a friend of mine called me about a friend of hers who needs some counseling in the 12 step. Would you be available for that?
of course, yeah,
All right. I'm going
yes,
to reach
always,
out and say I found somebody
yeah,
who, but yeah, so
that's
you're saying that's part of when you're dealing with these people, you don't have anything planned out to say, it just comes out of you.
yes, yeah, and
Right.
I mean generally the uh what's happened, the in that unfortunate situation is that
Mhm.
we're grossly self-centered. The alcoholic or the addict is really, he doesn't have the 5,000 foot view. He has the 5 inch view, and everything in there is about me. What about me? How about me? You guys look at me. And so, to move that him into a broader field,
Mhm.
we call it spirituality, but where he becomes part of the collective, part of what's going on, part of the love.
Right.
um and often the alcoholic or the addict is really wants that, would really wants to be part of it. It just that fear or trauma has locked in, you know, their view of life, and it's hardwired sometimes. And so, for me, love melts the hardwiring. You know, like when we were with Paul all those years, what the magic ingredient was love.
Right.
It was clearly love, and he used to say, it's not in what I'm saying, it's between the words. It's
Mm. And, that's what was missing, in my opinion, from the Rajneesh stuff. When I
uh-huh.
looked at this is just my judgment. When I looked at Wild Wild Country and that whole thing that happened among which Paul came out of, I didn't get that sense. I mean, maybe it existed because I'm just looking at it from the outside, but I didn't get that they had there what Paul was then able to bring to the group dynamic, where
Hmm.
he's saying, I'm for you. I'm for you. And I think, you're for people when you're talking to them in the 12 step. You're for people as you're interviewing them. You're serving that bigger part of you, which is you, right? Like Muji, he's just talking to himself. We all are, right? But he's talking to the part of himself that needs to hear the part that he's saying. I'm saying that too right here to myself.
Hmm.
But, you
Hmm.
know, uh,
I,
yeah,
I used I used to ask myself years ago. There's this universal law that says if you help enough people get what they want, you get what you want. It's a principle. And
yeah,
I used to look at Paul, and think, why is he taking this time with us? And and I recognize that as he lifted all of us up, he was
Mhm.
also lifted up, you know.
Yeah. He was
And
doing it for himself. We all do it because, well, first of all, we're all an extension of each other. When you see those people in the AA, you're seeing yourself, right? I mean,
I am
that's
now.
you.
Yes, yes,
And
yeah.
it's like you're talking to you from this perspective because they're not seeing the perspective that you now have. And so it's sort of magic that way that if they can hear you, they're hearing you talk to yourself from the place of the future that they want to have. They want to be at that level. We want to be, when we hear these teachers.
Free. We want to be free. I
Well, I think that's an illusion because I think we are free. We are
Well, we
free.
are, but the freedom that I'm talking about is, to be free of our conditioned beliefs, free of our mind, free of, of our. So many of us are stuck in an idea of not good enough, not smart enough,
Right.
and
But
so
that's
so
also freedom to be stuck there. I'm not
yeah,
disagreeing with you. I've just,
well, I certainly
you
give
know,
them permission to be stuck there. Yes,
yeah, there's
no judgment.
freedom in that. There's
Yes.
freedom. I mean, it depends what level. I know what you're saying, but there's so many other levels, and
There are, but a lot of
I,
times I'm dealing with that. I'm right
yeah,
there with that, and
right,
there's a soul in front of me, and in the moment it seems separate, and maybe it's universal, maybe it's all of us. But if one gets free and awakens to, oh, I'm not that. I can't actually believe that. I can't trust my old thinking
right.
you know and so I fancy myself, I call myself a jailbreaker, and or a freedom fighter.
Yeah, no, definitely. You are
W-
fighting for
w-
people's right
yeah,
to be.
without attachment. It's just like, okay, this is the I'm grateful to be able to share, and in the area of addiction, um um people are sometimes more available to look.
Well, do you think that is something they created to make themselves available at a certain point? I don't know. I'm just
But no,
asking.
that's very possible. Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's very
if they get
possible.
free of it, if they do
Yeah.
get free.
Nothing,
Yeah.
it's all for us. So of course, nothing is
Right.
against us. Nothing is,
Right.
you know,
Well,
um, and often, uh, fellas, I work a lot with men, and they'll be, angry at their demanding lady in their life,
mhm.
who seems to be finding fault. And I'll say, actually, she's your teacher.
Yeah,
She's your
that's
teacher.
good.
Yeah, she's here for you. And if it irritates you, good. If you feel
Yeah, you have to
irritated,
be at a certain level to get that because if you still think you're your body, then it's not it just rubs the wound.
yeah, yeah, you do have to be. And sometimes, how it all kind of falls together. Lots of pieces can um, it sometimes we can't really see, and then and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we have an epiphany, where
Right.
things fall into place, and we kind of jump level a little bit, and
Mhm.
I that's been my experience, times in my life when
So yeah. So why do you do these interviews? What do you I'm just not to turn the table. I'm just curious what do you get for yourself in talking to many people?
well um let's see if we can pick it out. It was just a few weeks ago when I was thinking it would be fun to do this. I like doing it,
Right.
and and it's it is quite a bit of work, but because we have to write the content and do all the stuff and keep a schedule and but I enjoy this and ultimately I have no idea where it's going to go or if it's who's going to who's what you're going to say, who's going to hear or anything. So I don't really have an agenda.
But it does something for you, right? It helps. It's part of your creative expression, maybe,
I
or
would think it's that for sure, but I think that all of this lifts me up as well. Yes, all of
uh
this
huh,
gives me,
right,
whoever me is, whatever this thing is, it there's the possibility of having a higher view and
mm,
being open to
mm,
and
what?
not
Well,
everybody
so
I get to talk to has the life experience that you do. I mean,
well, I don't
hardly
think I
nobody.
have that. I mean, I have whatever I have, but I'm just curious. Yeah, separate from that, I do you get the sense of what I'm talking about? Is because I'm not even sure the ET reality stuff. Like, it's so vague and hard to grasp, but yet there's an awareness, like you have an awareness of this deeper self. I have an awareness of this other intelligences or something, and it's and so I'm talking about for the same reason Muji talks to get that part of himself that once he gets it, then once you maybe even you once you own the experience and get the thing of addiction, you might move beyond that. But like
Well,
like
uh, let me say that
yeah,
working in the field isn't really about being in the field of addiction.
right,
Everything is really about in the field of awakening,
right, right, right,
and it doesn't matter because I think that we're all living in addiction,
right. I think so. I think
and
so.
so it's everything that we're doing is in with the possibility of seeing that, you
Right,
know, and surrendering in the moment to um, the possibility that that with the mind we can't come out of it. The mind isn't going to take us out of it. That intuition will, or love will, or an expanded possibility in the ethers will, inside,
right.
deep
But
down inside.
and then when we come out of it, then what?
Well, then I think there's the possibility to be here in each moment, in more like Paul used to say, in our full potential, to serve at a higher level. I think it's all about service. It's
Right.
always
But you're
about.
already doing all that. You're already present. I mean, I'm talking what I see of you. You're present, you're serving, you may have like inner stuff to work through, but you're you're sort of there. I mean, on whatever level, there's levels and level, but now what? I mean, so okay, let's say you're there, you've achieved it.
Well, there is no now what. This is
Okay.
it. This,
Okay.
I mean, this is it. There there isn't, you know, there's some leaning towards, what's next, but not really, because there is, everything that is now. And
Right.
it sounds a little cliche, but as soon as I'm in the now what, I'm not here. I've missed, I've kind of left the building and
Uh-huh. You know, right. Paul used to say still and still moving. You remember that? You remember when he would say that? Like
say it again.
still and still moving, being still and still moving. It's like,
Yes, 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 yeah. So that stillness within, that stillness, yes,
mhm,
um, which when I drop in like in meditation, that stillness is almost, you can almost hear it. It's
right.
so amazing. the isness, the oneness, the stillness, the it's just like, oh my God, you
Yeah.
know. And what's interesting is that we've given religion has given us so many stories about this that we're speaking of, and yet, you know, and the stories that we were brought up with our Sunday school ideas, you know,
Hmm.
of God, of
Hmm.
you know,
Right.
uh, actually inhibit the possibility to know nothing, you know.
Yeah, well, because that wasn't, yeah, no, there the religions were teaching us to be enslaved to
Obedient, obedient, yes.
yeah, to a concept. I mean, there are some great stories. I think Jesus was a great master, and there were many masters, but he wasn't a Christian. Jesus was not a Christian.
No,
I
of
hate
course
to
not.
tell, I hate to tell people in the church, and Buddha wasn't a Buddhist,
No.
and they were just being in the purity of that knowing, and so I don't even pay. I think we're forming something else. I think I think great. It's coming to a great place of awakening consciousness, presence, and for me, this is just me, and I mean, some people are content at that place of just being, and there is contentment there. But I think there's a bigger picture I'm always trying to look for. Maybe I just haven't reached that place of, or maybe when you reach that place, more unfolds, and it's all so amazing in that way. It's also inspiring.
Hmm.
That's still a kind of reaching for something,
Hmm.
but that's the fun of it. It's all for fun, really. It's all for, you know, it's all for having a good time in the sense, whatever. And I think the thing with addiction is people think, I don't know, I've never really been that way, although I've had my own minor, obsessions. But they think that, so when I talk to some people about following their highest excitement, it's a Bashar video I posted, and some people say, well, what if my excitement is just getting high all the time? I say to people, that's not your excitement, that's your avoidance. That's there's um I think the excitement comes from what is the inner world speaking outward. What what is it about being that that is the most fun? And you know that's just, and for me it's talking to people, finding out about people, learning, wondering about the unknown. That's.
Do you have do you have any daily practices?
Well, actually, yeah, and I haven't done it recently. I'm glad you asked that. I do a qigong meditation that was presented by this Chinese master Yan Qin, and it's a sitting practice where you sit like this, put your hands down, and you just circulate the qi,
Yes.
because I studied Chinese medicine, and you think of yourself as a 5 or 6 year, or 6 or 7, maybe 7 or 8. If you're a male, you think of yourself as a 7-year-old. If you're a female, you think of yourself as an 8-year-old, and you go back to that state, and you smile like a child, and you bring that in while you're focusing on this internal fire and water, the kan and li in the Taoist practices, where you're the fire, the deep fires heating up and steaming out to create a lotus that pushes the sick chi out of the body, and then you're inhaling and you're closing that lotus to go back in, and you do that as many times as you are old, plus 6 or 7 or 8 years. And after I do that, and I haven't done it for like a week or something, and I always feel like, well, I'm more clear, I'm more energized, feel stronger. And yeah, that's one of my practices. I mean,
Nice. So
do,
you studied Chinese medicine.
yes, I
I, I,
studied. Yeah,
I have a story. I want to tell a story about you.
sure. Okay.
Um,
But before you do that, do you have a practice that you do also as well?
no, I do, but this is my interview.
Okay, sure.
Um,
Go ahead. All right, tell the story about me. That's fine. That's fine. That's good.
you're you're
No,
a
that's okay.
natural interviewer. You're
No, it's
great.
okay. You're
I,
right. Okay, that's good. No, thanks for saying that. I know. Okay, go ahead. I saw there was another party that came up to say that, which is great. But go ahead. Go ahead. Tell this.
uh,
Yeah. Oh,
well, I'm interested in practices because I've been speaking about it. I do a video every day. In the last few days, I've been talking about daily practices, and I see the potential. There's so many possibilities. Marcus Aurelius had practices, and Napoleon Hill had practices, and
right.
Byron Katie has practices, and you
Yes.
know, there's so many things that will bring us into the day and allow us not to be so
Yes.
filled with anger, fear, or selfishness,
Right.
to be self-centered in each moment. Most of those practices are good for that. But I remember you brought to mind a story. We were in Mexico together one time,
Mhm.
you and I.
Yes, at the Cortez Villa outside of
Yes, and
Cuernavaca. Yeah,
wasn't that amazing? And
that was great. Yeah.
um, I had an experience there, a Kundalini experience, Jasmine and I. And
Oh, Jasmine, what a Kundalini case she was. She was
I know,
active.
and it happened to the two of us one night together,
Oh, wow.
and we were like, oh my God, we didn't know what was happening. It was
Mhm.
and we went to see um, uh, Terrence the next morning because Terrence was there with us, and
Right.
you remember Big T, and
Yeah,
he
I
and
liked that guy. Yeah, he was a great guy. Yes, great
we
guy.
love Terrence, and he used to come
Yeah.
and visit me here in Calgary. But um, so Terrence was there, and we were explaining what had happened, and that it kept happening, and we couldn't get it to turn off. And he said he
Was
looked
that
at
the
it.
first time it happened to Jasmine? That place
Yeah,
in Mexico? Is that where her
yeah,
Kundalini got ignited?
yes, yeah. For both of us,
Oh, I didn't
really.
know that.
For both of
Oh,
us,
I
it
didn't know
was.
that.
We
Yeah.
were, we were.
Right.
It's interesting because we were not active sexual partners,
Right.
and we were friends who often like to lay together, and
Mhm.
and 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 that's all we were doing, and it just came. It was like, oh my
Right.
gosh, and it's never gone away from me. It's
Right.
and nor for her, and
Wow. Good.
yes, and
Yeah.
and um Terrence said, well, enjoy it. He said people spend millions trying to find that.
It's true. It's true. That was
and,
very smart of him.
and you
Yes.
two stumbled upon it,
Yeah. It's
on a
true.
bunk bed. We were we
Yeah.
were we just arrived there, and they didn't have a room for us, so we were in a kind of a something they threw together for us, like a bunk
Yeah.
situation, and that was it was like day one or two of the group, and then you helped some with your needles. You had your needles with you,
Right. Right.
and you more with Jasmine than with me, but I think you were just more attracted to spend time with Jasmine than you were with me.
Well, I didn't realize you were having as much Kundalini as she was. Because she was shaking and
Oh,
vibrating.
in the group,
So
she was, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that I actually didn't know until you just said now that you also were having it because she was so extreme.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
I
you knew
was
we
looking,
talk about it there, but
yeah,
but I
but
think it would be she was more memorable for sure.
yeah, she was very, and yeah, and every time I would see it, and it was great because, you'd get a hit off of that,
Oh,
it's,
yeah. People would come and sit next to us because we
yeah.
we were both just it was
Hmm.
all around us. It was amazing, and it threw us, and it just, and it was undescribable in a way, but it was
Right.
a physical experience.
I know.
uh
It was amazing. It was great. Yeah.
the energy of the body, the spiritual, sexual, how, wherever whatever you want to call it, but
Right.
the Hindus, I think, call it kundalini, and I'm sure it's called other things in other
Well,
faiths.
Shakti, Kundalini Shakti. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I just did an 8-part series interviewing different people with that experience on my YouTube channel. Look up the Kundalini Hour.
Yeah.
But what did you say the acupuncture did what for you
Well, at the
exactly?
time, you were just trying to get us to ground out a bit,
Right,
and
right.
and you gave me some treatments, and Jasmine some treatments at the
Uh,
time, and I remember that you were quite handy with the needles.
right. Well, I had just graduated because that was 96, was that? We went to Mexico? 94, maybe even
No, no,
98.
we were in Bali in 94, so it was 98 or 99.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Remember that crew? There
okay.
was quite a few New York guys there. Um,
In Mexico or
yes,
Bali?
in New York, in Mexico.
I thought we went to Mexico before we went to, at least I think I went to Mexico before Bali.
Well, I was at Bali one.
Oh, I probably wasn't there. Yeah.
Yeah, and which was 94, and
Okay.
in Mexico was a few years after.
All
Um,
right. So you're
and,
saying the acupuncture really helped ground the
well,
Shakti
yes, I
piece?
think it did, and there was part of me, of course, that didn't want to ground it because I was just really enjoying the
Right.
and I became more popular with some of the
The girlies.
ladies on the tour.
Right. Right.
And although I was very um, fragile, in a way,
Um,
I was
I
quite
didn't
vulnerable.
I didn't know that about you so much. It was a great tour. I mean, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
it,
uh,
it really was, and that we were there with Ava, you know,
Ava, yes, she was an amazing being, still is an amazing being.
yes,
Um, and Paul. Um,
and
but
Terrence. I'll never forget Terrence.
I
Uh,
didn't know him that well. But is Jasmine still active? Wait, do you still see her, Jasmine?
I don't see, we had a big community here that was, but it's all kind of, um,
Yeah,
moved on.
with what's his name? Armando. Yes, he was a great being part of that community. And
Yeah, they all
who
moved to
else
Victoria.
did they? Why
Yeah.
they moved? That's a little bit of a depressing town, I think, Victoria.
Well, I don't, maybe
I
not
mean, I've
so
been
depressing
there.
now that they're there, but a lot of folks moved out there, and people got older, and it's not, we don't get together in community a lot, and it kind of,
Yeah,
after Paul left, um, it, there was no teacher or no reason to come together, so the community actually ended up coming together to party,
right.
and 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 to hot tub, and to and I'm not, that's not my interest. I mean, I love being with people,
Right.
and but there was drinking and drugs and stuff that came
Right.
back into the community, and so
Well, are you getting together with people now, and
no,
you're not
no,
at all?
not at all.
How do you
Not
find
probably.
people?
I haven't been really um around with that community for maybe 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
Oh, there was those women there too, Francesca and
Cynthia.
Cynthia. Yeah, Cynthia. I liked her. Yes, I liked them
Of
both.
course, I love them both, and but we're all kind of gotten older now,
Oh,
and
and what's her name too? The woman who changed her name, Salima,
Selena, yeah,
Selena. Is she still around there? Yeah.
yes,
And D'Artagnan, right? And
he's on the island,
he's on which island?
Vancouver
Vancouver.
Island.
Oh, he is. I always
Yeah.
liked him too. I met that whole. I think the Mexico thing was the first big Paul retreat I did,
Oh, okay.
where I
So
met, Clara, who is great. I saw her recently. I mean, maybe this isn't interesting for people listening, but it doesn't matter. Um, no, I still see people here. Michael, I see in New York, and
yes, how's Michael?
He's doing his thing. He's okay.
Michael's Michael.
He's a little better at being Michael, I think now.
Oh,
Not as
nice.
he's definitely not as angry as he was. So,
Nice.
Mark Becker, I see he does expos still. So,
Yes.
Christopher, if you knew Christopher.
Yes.
Um,
A good
anyway,
a good crew and Peter,
Peter. Oh, Peter. Yeah, Peter.
Peter
Yeah,
Gordon,
yeah,
uh,
Peter. Yeah.
and Michael from Berlin,
Mhm.
and
Michael. Yeah.
a couple of other guys have really gone to spend time with Muji these last 3 or 4 years.
You see, personally, I mean, it's interesting. I'm really over it. I'm like, I don't have any patience to do that anymore.
So
I'm,
and that's
it,
okay. I mean,
no, I
that's
know it's
super.
okay, but it's
Yeah.
like when you tell me that, I'm just telling you my initial response. I get a little angry, like because I know Peter and I say, Peter, come on. That's another addiction. Of course, I don't know that. I'm just projecting, but get over it. Stop going. I mean, it's finished. It's like it's not happening. And of course, what do I know if he gets something out of it? But it's I'm just projecting my own stuff. It's like
Totally.
it's totally that, but it's like I can't sit at someone's feet anymore and listen to like their philosophy. It's just and maybe I will at some point, who knows, but it's just like I listened to some people for a little while and I'm just very bored.
Yes.
Who have I
Well,
listened to recently? I rather dialogue with people than listen to them.
I think
It's
that
like
because, like I said, I've spent all these hours in this last year
mm,
listening. But I can also listen for hours to Ramdas.
yeah. No, I
I
like
love his.
Ram Dass. I like all these people, but I think there's another level happening.
We'll look at you for just a moment,
Yeah.
surrounded with 1,000 books.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
and aren't they? What are they? But the words of somebody in history. Some of them
Yeah.
are inspired. Some of them are researched. Some of
Yeah.
them are just plain bullshit. So it would be
Absolutely.
the same. I think that what happens is that I don't even read books anymore. I do them all on Audible.
Well, I don't even read. The truth is, I just like having these friends around. They're friends, these people, these beings, but I don't actually pick up.
yeah.
Occasionally, I'll see something out of the thousands that I have here and say, oh, yeah, that's interesting. But I do want to tell you one story I had when I was dreaming, because I have
Yes.
this loft bed up here,
Yep.
and I was dreaming, and I think I'd just broken up with this woman I was kind of upset about, and was in this sort of altered, not quite depressed state, but altered state. And I was dreaming, and somehow in that dream state, I was looking at this bookshelf, and all these books had a sort of energy coming off of them. It was like
Yes.
a kind of egoic energy. And there was one book that didn't. One part of the shelf that was just wow. I said, what is that? And then I came out of that dream state
yes.
and I went to that part of the shelf that I saw that, and you're just reminding me of all of this. I hadn't thought about this in a while. And I picked up the book, and it was the Tao Te Ching. And it was like, wow, there was no egoic energy coming, no, not even any creative human energy.
Yeah.
It was just the emptiness.
So Hawkins said that book vibrates very, very high, in the eight or
Yeah.
nine hundreds. And
Yeah.
and also the Bhagavad Gita, he said, vibrates in the eight or nine hundreds.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say I would say there's a lot of ego in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bible. There's some great stories, but I'm just telling you, for me, there was an empty. Are you tired? Am I keeping you
No, no.
awake? Don't mean to be keeping you awake. We could both go into the dream time now. So it's okay. No, but
So
and yeah,
Stephen Mitchell,
Stephen
uh,
Mitchell, I like him. Yeah,
yeah,
he
he did a translation of the Bhagavad Gita, which is my favorite translation. I have
of the
three,
Tao Te Ching too.
both, yeah, both
Yeah,
books, yeah.
yeah,
Um,
he sought out. I remember, I remember him when he was first heard of Byron Katie, and it's like he hunt. I mean, this is just my. He went to find her, and that became his, I guess, wife and teacher. I
yes, yes,
remember.
they married, but for him to do the research and write both of those books, the Tao and
Mhm.
and the Gita,
I
they
think
did
there's
a nice
something
job.
about the Tao, though. This is just my preference, of course, that is really empty of human egoic intention. I don't get the same feeling, but that's just me. But um, yeah, I have like 20 editions of the Tao Te Ching actually, and it's
Wow.
yeah, because actually it's over 100 in English. There's one by Jonathan Starr that gives you the ancient Chinese and tells you what the variations of meaning. Because in all my pursuit of the Tao, there's translators of the Chinese, ancient Chinese, into English that don't understand spiritual concepts, and then there's these spiritual concepts like the Tao that can be named as not the Tao. Well, but they don't know the Chinese, so I kind of formulated my own Taoist interpretation, because for me, Taoists are the closest to the truth of for me.
I need to spend a little time in the Tao. I'd like to hear, um, your recommendation of the kind of the best uh, translation or the best. Um,
Well, get Jonathan Starr's, because he goes through variations of meaning. Um, um, Here, let me just
it's okay. You could, you
just
could send it to me later, but I think that
one
would be. Oh, there he
yeah,
goes.
but no, I'm just looking up on my bookshelf for
Okay.
Chinese Taoist um, practices here. Um, I don't know. I do have so many here that um, that it's all just. It's okay. It's all just. Anyway, okay. Yeah, they're all good. This one, the Tao,
Okay.
Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu
Yep.
actually means in Chinese old child. It's a kind of a paradox. It means this wise child, but in Chinese it's really like ancient child. It's like the paradox of um of being. And when it says Dao Da, THTAO De, TE, De means integrity. Dao means the way, the flow, the path, and Qing means text, like the I Ching is a text. And but the Dao De means the flow of integrity. Integrity means your maximum potential, as Paul used to say. What is your maximum potential in this moment? So the Tao De, what is the maximum way of flowing with creation? You know?
Beautiful.
And let me see. I'll just read a little port here, and then we can wrap up if you want. This translation I know about. The Tao is forever flowing, and yet it never overflows. It is an abyss like the ancestor of all things. It softens with acuity. It dissolves all confusion. It shifts the views of brightness and light. It unites itself with its own dust. It is deep yet right there on the surface. It does not know what it is, and it seems to be earlier than all things. Isn't that good?
Yes.
So that's my little modification of, but it's just what we're talking about. It's this that depth of forever. That's the Tao. And as soon as you call it something, you've put into a box, and it's not the Tao.
Yes.
So it's like the Satori experience. Tell me who you are. You can never tell anyone who you are because you're not. You realize in the Satori, it's just a joke to think you're any one of the things you name. So that's why I never really liked that particular practice because it's like, of course, I'm not that. I'm just so. But for people who think they're something, maybe that's something they would enjoy. I don't know. But so much for
Remember, the practice wasn't to discover that we weren't something. The practice was really to discover who we were.
yeah. I didn't have any patience for it.
Self-realization.
Yeah, but have there been people? I mean, I think Kira's got pretty far in that practice. I
Yes.
think some people have, but it was actually, I remember Paul saying before he introduced all of us to it in Bali, he said, this is not something he would do again. I mean, he kind of, but I think I recommend it for everyone.
Did
But
so Claire came to do it with you guys, right? Paul's
yeah,
wife?
yeah, weren't you
Yes.
there for that?
No, I was there
Oh,
in Valley One. Somebody else came. It wasn't Claire.
oh,
It was
wow.
somebody that Paul knew from the Osho days.
Oh, no,
Uh,
Claire was the one who led us through that.
yes,
Yeah, in
and this
Bali.
fella
Yeah.
showed up. That was one of Paul's buddies from the Osho days, and remember Osho told everybody to go to Bali or Byron Bay or wherever,
No, I don't
and
remember that. I
and
wasn't into Osho actually. I never looked good in orange was not my color. So no, I wasn't drawn to Osho. That's why when these similar teachings came through Paul, it's like, oh, okay, here's
yeah,
something that's just simpler, more direct,
he was.
and more felt. More, I
Yeah,
mean, I always felt, there was something else going on there with Osho that was
there
not.
wasn't such a big crew with Paul. It was a nice crew, and
Yeah, but it was more immediate,
yeah,
more real. Although a lot of some of his stories were very Osho stories, and Osho was quite a dynamic being. But
great storyteller.
did you watch the Wild Wild Country
Yeah,
miniseries?
yeah.
Well, that showed me why I never got into Osho because and and Paul himself said he walked away from the whole thing when it started to go downhill like that. So
Yes, yeah, yeah. He stayed close to the end, but you know, um, it,
anyway,
it's it's interesting because we weren't really there, but I know that lots of folks really something happened for people. It was a beautiful time for a lot of people. It really
yeah,
was, and
it was. I'm sure it was. I
yeah,
should wrap up soon, but did you
yeah. Me
get to
too.
see the book that I sent you?
Yes. Well,
What
like which book? You mean the book?
that's
That you're,
coming out? Yeah, my
yeah. Well,
UFO
yes,
book.
you sent me the Amazon, and I posted it on the last video.
Oh, okay,
I posted
great.
I
Thank
posted
you.
the link on the last video. So May the 4th, right?
Yeah, that's when the final official release, but I'm going to be doing some book releases before that. So
May the 4th be with you.
that's why they did it. May the 4th be with you. That's very funny. I'm going to use that. Thank you. That's
May the,
funny.
May the
That's
4th.
that's good. That's creative. You're absolutely right. Um, but
And if
I
you're go-
do,
if you need any if you're going to do some releases, pre-releases and stuff, let me
yeah.
know and I'll promote them for you.
I'm doing something on Saturday called Making Contact Saturday Night Alive for the
Well, send me
global.
your links and I'll
I
post
will.
them on all my pages
Okay.
see, I have put your YouTube channel on my page a
Oh,
few times
thanks.
so that people
What
can follow you on
what is
YouTube.
your page? What is your YouTube channel again?
It is
What's the name?
Valley and Beyond Project Awakening.
Oh, Bally Beyond. That's it.
Valley and
Okay.
Beyond Project
Bally
Awakening.
and beyond. Okay. Well, I hope to visit you in Calgary sometime.
That would be awesome. It's more likely that I'll come and see you in New York before that, though.
All right. All right. Unless I'm traveling, but I
Yes.
do. No, Armando invited me up there a couple of years ago. I almost went to go skiing. It would have been fun, but I don't know.
I
I
think
don't
my
know.
skiing days are over.
Really? Is it, you get a lot of snow up there?
Yeah. There's lots of we're like 80 kilometers from Banff, from the Rocky Mountains.
Is that a ski resort place,
Oh
Banff?
yeah, yeah. It's the best.
Oh, is
It
it?
is it is the
Yeah.
best.
Well, maybe I'll go out to visit some 80 miles. You're about 80 miles. So what's
Uh,
your YouTube channel? Is Bali and Beyond? Is that the YouTube channel?
Falling Beyond, Project Awakening,
Oh, okay. Project. Okay.
Project
Okay,
Awakening,
great.
and Valley Beyond.
Okay, that's where I can find your YouTube, huh?
Yeah, I'll send you the link. And I see there we are. We're live on YouTube, you and I, right now.
We are.
Yeah.
Let me go. Let me go to my live on YouTube. Let me just see where that is.
And we're on the front of the I think it's still happening. Yes, there it is. Yeah. On the
You see the okay, I guess it's coming up. I guess it'll be up. But anyway. YouTube ads beat Facebook ads every time. Oh, there it goes. Okay, we're looking at the ad. Okay, I think I got it. Yeah.
brother, we should call it.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thanks for
I,
your time.
it's been wonderful spending time with you again, and love you,
Thank you.
and you know, I hope your book does really really well. And
Me too. I think
yeah,
it will do pretty good. Be
yeah,
in touch. Let's catch up on these in a month or so, a couple of
yeah,
months, whenever.
yeah. We'll talk more about the book then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
May the 4th
May
be
the
with
fourth.
you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Love you lots. We'll talk soon.
Thanks. Thanks. Did you
Bye bye.
get what you were looking for in this update?
I I wasn't looking for anything.
Okay, good.
I was
Okay.
open to what we were going to do,
All
and
right, good.
and we
Did we
did it.
do it? Did we do it?
Okay.
All right.
Bye, my
See
friend.
you.